I'm Danny, and this is the Screen Princess podcast. We're back. I don't know what happened there. I don't touch the laptop. So you are actually my second guest. I don't know which order I'm going to put these out in, but it's very much a learning curve today. I did say before to my last guest, which was actually Liam Regan, who I think you've just been chatting to.
Yes,
He said he's
uh,
just been talking to you.
we've been comparing notes over the world of physical media distribution.
Okay, well, I was like, I'm not a technical genius in any way, shape, or form, so this could go horribly wrong. I think
Yeah,
that one did go well. I feel like it's all recorded and it's all been good.
yeah.
So lesson learned, do not touch the laptop whilst in use. So just in case I didn't get that, today's guest is Tom Lee Rutter, who is a writer, director, sometimes actor. And now film distributor. So just in case I miss that the first time. So again, hi Tom, how are you doing?
I'm okay, thank you, Danny. I'm ready for my Christmas holiday. I'm ready to just kick back and watch some films and do fat lot of nothing, to be honest.
Well, yes. I see I've already done my Christmas. So this probably won't go out until the new year, but it is December as we record this. And I've already done my Christmas. I've had like three Christmases so far. And I'm kind of Christmased out now. I'm ready for next Halloween. As you can tell,
Yeah,
my Indiana Bones here. I only brought him out because Tom's got one. And then I was like, well, mine's just
we're bony buddies.
Yeah, mine's just over there in the studio. We can add him to the mix today.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, as you can see, I'm in my little office space here in the Wild West Midlands, and I've just thrown loads of things against the wall in hopes that they can all just have their little moment and show off a little bit.
I see a Pocket Film of Superstitions poster there in the background, which we're
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's
definitely
been
going
quite
to
the
talk
year
about.
for that one, hasn't it, really? I didn't realise that the film would be playing festivals for over a year, really. I mean, it's done very well. I'm very chuffed. So people have been, enjoying the film all over. It played Transylvania on Halloween.
Yes. See, if had I have known that, see, my partner doesn't have a passport, which I think is ridiculous. Like, who in the world doesn't have a
Outrageous.
I know. And I didn't know. And one of our mutual friends said to me, are you going to Transylvania or do you fancy going to Transylvania for this? And I was like, what? What? How did I not know? And this is like with a week to go or something. And I was like, well, no, I won't be allowed to go on my own. Well, I would be allowed, but like I'd want him to come with me and he doesn't have a passport and I would have had no time to be able to make it a thing. But I was like, I could have gone and repped Pocket
Yeah,
Film
yeah, that would have been
Superstitions.
amazing. I
I
mean,
fancy Transylvania for Halloween.
I know, and it was the Dracula in the film festival as well. The
It means you're
Dracula
going to have to make
International.
another film.
Yeah, I know, I
This is it.
know.
And then
But
we can all
I'm
go.
finally going in January. I'm going to Transylvania in January. Unfortunately, it
Amazing.
clashes with the second weekend of horror on sea, so I miss video shops, big
I don't think
kind
I'm
of
going to make Horror on Sea this year, actually. Which
what?
yes, I know. It's because I'm so far away now. And
Yes.
we'll talk about the festivals, but so Horror on Sea and Romford are kind of the favourite festivals. But Horror on
Mm,
Sea is every 2 weekends, and
mm.
I've got a film in each weekend. And for me, I live like far, far away now.
You live on the other end
And
of the planet now, don't
I'm on the other
you?
end of the planet, which is not, it's not so bad, but it's like I can't do it both weekends. And if I stay for the full week, it's like, I'm spending a lot of money on hotels for a full week, or I'm staying on people's sofas, and I'm
Yeah.
losing work because I'm away for kind of too long. So I'm thinking I'm probably
I'm
going
going
to
to
do
try and make
Romford.
it for weekend one because I feel like a weekend without a year without horror on sea. I just can't
Yeah.
imagine that
I've missed
really.
a couple years, like in the early years, because I was away filming, and it's
Hmm.
weird when you haven't been. So
I
I
know
will
because
get massive FOMO. I'll get massive FOMO.
you usually walk away with about 20 new roles as well, don't you?
Yeah,
So
I mean,
you've
and
kind of got your calendar filled just thanks to horror on
yeah, I
sea.
haven't. I've got nothing booked in next year, but I have FOMO already because I missed Darkfest, and I'm gonna get
Yeah.
FOMO from Honesty, but I'm gonna try and make Romford because Video Shop and Horoscope should be on the same weekend, so I'll be able to do.
Yes, if you can try and make it to one of them
Yeah,
because life just gets so busy, doesn't it? And life
it
takes a
does. It
and now you're like
does.
the other end of the country as well. It's a very different
I
kettle of
mean,
fish.
yeah, I mean, there's stuff does happen up here. I'm not quite in Scotland almost, but it does feel a bit like it's a far away. It's only 5 hours. It's not that bad. And actually a flight from Newcastle to London is an hour. It takes me like door to door to get to the airport. By the time I've like walked to the we call it the metro up here, but I still call it the tube. I get the metro to the airport in like less than an hour, and then the flight's an hour. So actually, it's not that bad, and flights are cheaper than trains, quicker than driving. I like to drive because I like to have all my stuff and it's in the car,
Yeah.
and if it rains or whatever, my hair is okay. But I recently drove back for a music video and I left at like 5 in the morning, and it was okay to start with, and then I hit the snow and it was like a blizzard, and I was like,
Oh
I'm
my
gonna
goodness.
die. And then I kind of wished I'd got the train. But
So
I
don't
paid.
get me wrong, some of my favourite filmmaking memories are all up in like Newcastle
Are
because
they?
I'd go up and see Steve,
Of
Steve,
course.
he's in Sunderland, but then we'd go over to like Newcastle and we'd shoot in the city centre with
Hmm.
these equity actors, and we'd go up to Castle Keep. You've been around Castle Keep.
No.
It's because it's obviously it's the Gothic sort of castle walls and graveyards, but within the city. So
Why
it's
don't I know about this? I've
no, it's
been to Newcastle.
amazing.
I mean, I don't go to Newcastle an awful lot, but I'm
But
I'm
we'd kill people obviously in the film and get their heads ripped off and cover the walls with fake blood, and then the watchtower of Castle Keep would be watching us with his cap on and his whistle, and he'd come up to us afterwards saying, "I've notified the police.
oh no.
Don't go anywhere," because the walls were stained completely pink by now from all the fake
My
blood.
boyfriend is the police, so I have to be
Oh,
good.
really? It wasn't me, honestly. It wasn't me. And then we did a couple of days filming in Surely you've been to Jesmond Dean by now.
No,
That's a
no,
gorgeous walk.
haven't been
That is.
there. So I
Will
live,
you like the
I'm
walk?
I'm in South Shields, so I'm not quite in Newcastle. I
Right. How
always say
far is
to
that
people
then?
I'm near Newcastle, but I'm right on the beach. So I
Oh,
do go to Newcastle occasionally, but mostly I'm just like hiking cliff tops and
yeah. I
bobs.
mean, Jesmond Dean is just a big nature reserve. I think it's like half an hour outside of Newcastle, so I recommend
Yeah,
that one. It's lovely. It
I
really
will
is
check
nice.
it out. It is on the list. I have heard about it before. It has been
Yeah.
kind of mentioned to me.
Oh, there's some beautiful
Um,
walks up there. I mean, you're in it for the walks, aren't you?
I'm
You
in it
love the
for the
walks.
walks. I'm in it for the hikes. I went on a crazy one yesterday. I've got a friend up from London who's actually staying with a different friend, but we went on a walk yesterday, and I think people from London don't expect it to be quite so cold up here. And it was windy, and we were walking on lots of cliff tops, and he was like, "I'm gonna get blown off a cliff." It was a lovely walk though. I felt like because I said I'd already done a couple, I've done like 3 Christmases. This was like would have been my Boxing Day yesterday. So
Hmm.
I always tend to do a Boxing Day hike. So I feel
Well,
like
it's
I
technically
needed.
almost 2025 for you now, then, really.
You need the exercise. But yeah, I'm in that between Christmas and New Year limbo, but I've started a
Mhm.
bit early.
It's a
But
shame you didn't get to see any of the walks round by us here when you were doing Blood Demons instead. We were chasing around looking after little
you
birds,
have
weren't
to
we, and
bring me
stuff?
back.
Yes,
You have
yeah.
to write some more movies and bring me
There's
back,
some
and then we
absolutely
can do it.
gorgeous walks around here. You love them, and tie it in with some filming. I mean, why the devil not? Why the devil not?
Exactly. So now I knew this would happen. I'd be like, with my guests, the ones I know, I'm like, will I have enough to chat for an hour? And I feel like you go off on such a tangent that, we could do it for like 4 hours and we'd still be here. So,
Absolutely.
Tom, filmmaking is actually in the family. I know your brother's also a filmmaker, but what was what made you want to become a filmmaker? Like, what were your early influences? Like, what were your kind of favorite movies growing up? Like, what inspired you?
Well, right. I always say this that we were filmmakers right straight out of the womb, and it's pretty much true because as early as I can remember, I was just had that love for the fantastic or the stuff that was essentially horror, really. Like so, by
Mhm.
the age of 3, I'd already seen Jaws. Um,
Really?
yeah, and then by the age of 5, I'd already seen the Nightmare on Elm Street films, and my parents would often try and scare us away by saying, "Okay, you're going to watch this, but you're going to have such awful nightmares over it that you won't want to watch another one again, and we can put this to bed," sort of thing. But no, we were
Now
totally
look
hooked.
what happened.
Yeah, exactly. So and because we're from the age of VHS and video shops, we just devoured horror films on video, and then I was completely fascinated with the covers
Hmm.
and how they were marketed. So even at a very young age, I was taking all this information about how you'd market a film. You'd fall into the marketing traps where you'd see a cover that looked really enticing, but realize none of that was actually in the film, or So you start to pick up on how these things were marketed, and then before you know it, we were sort of looking at our cuddly toys, and they became our first actors. My brother and I, we would just use our cuddly toys, and they would be our first cast members. And before it'd be a case of like using your eyes before you started nicking off with the camcorder and framing them with
Yeah.
your eyes. And then we nicked the camcorder, the family camcorder. So we'd film them, start learning all about composition and framing. And then from there on in, you start learning other tricks like special effects. And because these are our teddy bears and they weren't going to run anywhere, we were able to cover them in fake blood and learn all about stop motion and stuff like that. So that just grew up until we started cajoling our school friends into
Mm.
these little films that we'd make after school, or you know, and then it just didn't seem to go away. I think it was just again, it's there was never a point where it's like, oh, I want to be a filmmaker. It was always just that's what we were, and that's what we're going always going to be.
Are you
It's
very
so
close in
strange.
age, the two of you?
Yeah, there's about 18 months. I think my
Oh,
brother's
okay.
like, yeah, nearly 2 years. So
Right.
yeah, but a lot of people mistook us for twins, and because
Mm.
we did pretty much everything together. We watched all the same stuff. We sometimes dressed the same because my mum would dress us like twins. But yeah, we completely devoured, and then we just sort of carried on with our this, but we went like this in the most positive of ways. We
Mm.
went on different trajectories and became very different filmmakers, and
Yeah.
we often compare notes and just rip the piss out of each other mainly. But now we've got a little brother because my mum had a kid with a new boyfriend, long term boyfriend, and he's what 15 now, and he's getting into 3D animation. So it's not long before we rope him into productions now.
Yeah,
So
so it's all of you. That's incredible. I didn't know
yeah.
there was a third.
hmm As a third, he's tucked away at the moment, on the laptop, just kind of honing his craft. But hopefully
Yeah,
one day he'll do something great.
that's really exciting. I love that. It's like those families that you see on IMDb, and it's like, and you look at the family members, you're like
The
clicking on
whole
them.
dynasty
They
of
do what
them.
they do. That will be you guys. That's super.
Yeah, well, absolutely. But yeah, we just both had the same. There was just no question. I guess, like my nan, who's still with us, the only nan who's still with us. She loved horror films, so
That's
she
mental.
she would help. We'd go around to my nan's, and like she'd have copy of like demons on the by the team, when me and my brother were like, "What's this?" So we'd watch most of the horror films at my nan's. Whereas my mom, my mom, she kind of we inherited the love of the ghost story from my mom. You see,
Yeah.
she loves the supernatural, and
Oh, so my mum doesn't like any of it. And my mum did say to me, she's never watched a horror film. I'm like, wow. She's like, I'm just not interested. And so, I mean, I think she's seen things like Jaws. Like, 'cause
yeah,
my dad would
yeah,
have watched Jaws. Like, I know I've
yeah.
definitely, that's how I watched
So
Jaws.
that's basically most of your filmography out the window, then, really.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad thing that my mum hasn't watched most of my films, but I feel like maybe for the safer.
Yeah,
But yeah,
sometimes
she
it's a
hasn't
question.
seen many of them.
Well, it's not for everybody, is it? I mean, for us, for me, it was the perfect genre for filmmaking because it's a top-heavy genre.
Yeah,
So under horror, you can have romance, comedy, drama.
yeah,
You can even have musical numbers.
yeah.
But it will always be a horror something else, a horror this or a horror comedy, a
Yeah,
horror
because horror
musical.
has so many subgenres,
Yeah,
and as long as
exactly.
you've got some horror elements, it's a horror film.
So therefore, that's where you practice, everything involved with film. The art
Mm,
of illusion, the art of manipulation, drama, and just
mm.
everything. And horror is the perfect breeding ground for that. It's a shame it's so looked down upon by a lot of, sort of film snobs, I guess, really, because
Yeah,
you know,
well,
um,
it's
the
their
love of
loss.
it is their loss, but it's got such a great, passionate community behind it, as we all know.
Yeah.
We that you can just it amazes me sometimes when you meet some of these horror fanatics, and they really do live the horror life. They just love
They
live and breathe.
do. And what I always find is when you speak to people, or when I get asked in interviews or whatever, like, what drew you to horror and why horror? Um, I wasn't, I've always loved horror films. I didn't set out just to do horror. That was kind of just kind of fell into it and found my niche. But the people you work with, although, you know, we all make scary movies and there's lots of blood and lots of gore and lots of murder and lots of horrible, horrible things, they tend to be the nicest people. So honestly, working in a horror film environment, everyone's so lovely. And it's
Mhm.
like, why would you want to work elsewhere? Like everyone,
Yeah.
it becomes like a family. Everyone knows everybody and
Mhm.
everyone helps everybody. And like with other types of film, other filmmakers, they're probably in competition with each other. And you know, with us, we're like, how can we help? What can we do? And
Yeah, there's a big
everybody's like,
community
yeah,
behind it. It is. It's great.
everyone's.
There's such a big community behind it, and I really respond well to that. It's great.
Mhm.
And there's so many different voices, and they're all just coming from different, different backgrounds, different, and
Yeah,
coming to different conclusions with their own ideas. It's great. It really is. It's very fertile as well. But yeah, like you say, it's very cross-pollinated as well.
it
It's actually
is. It
amazing
is.
how many different films you see that are all just tied together
Yeah.
by the same people.
And the festivals, it's like when you go to some of the major horror festivals, or the independent horror festivals, you're bumping into the same people. So it becomes like a school reunion that you have every year with these people. You might not see, unless you've worked with them that year, you might not have seen them, but you know that we're all going to congregate. It's like, you know, in the
Absolutely.
witches, they have that big grand high witch meetup thing. It's like that, their yearly thing.
It is. It's lovely. I mean, it's communities. That's what it's all about, isn't it? At the end of the day,
Mm.
and it's nice to have that familiarity in the game because I can imagine it's quite daunting, and sometimes it can be quite difficult to sort of crack the sort of scene in a
Yeah.
way because you don't want it to seem too insular and cross-pollinated and inbred to use the word. You want to be able to promote an inclusivity where people can actually get involved and be a part of something.
Yeah, but then it's the same. I think I suppose with it's the same with all kinds of films. When people have actors that they like, they want to see them do stuff. So I think with any kind of part of the film industry, it becomes like that. There's like, you know, certain times where different people are doing a lot and then it kind of switches and
Yeah, the dynamics do shift quite a lot, as does I think I wanted to I sort of celebrated that with Pocket Film really because when you watch
Mm.
Pocket Film, it is like a scrapbook of everyone I met since
Yeah.
since going down to like horror on sea and everything. It's just always like there's a part for you, there's a part for you, there's a part for you, there's a part for you,
Yeah.
and because it's so fragmented and cut up into vignettes, it's the ideal it's the ideal sort of uh, canvas to be able to do that with, really. So you
Mm.
don't have to worry about how character A is going to go into character scene B, scene C.
Yeah.
You just think, okay, well, I've got a day to do this. Let's bring so and so in, and then that means
Yeah.
they get to shine in the film.
I
So it is
can't
like a little
remember now
scrapbook.
how I got involved. I can't, was it, did we meet at Horror on Sea? It probably was that, wasn't it?
Very good question.
Or Romford or
I think for a while, Lau was saying, you should work with Danny Thompson. You should work with Danny Thompson. And then I'm like, yeah, I should work with Danny Thompson. So I think I just messaged you, and then you were like, oh,
Mm.
cool, okay. And I think you was already chatting to Kieran, maybe.
Yes,
But
I
no,
think I
I
was.
think it was just a case of reach out on because
So
there's a
just so,
few
did you
instances.
just Facebook me? Maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Because I felt bold enough to do so
You
because
felt pressured by Lal.
yeah, I was harassed by that. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll do it. So I put up the courage and I did it. I messaged you, and I've done that. I did that a couple of times for this for Cy Henty as well
Yeah. And
because he's a regular at Horror on Sea now, but
yeah,
I sort of always missed him at Horror on Sea, so I never met him. But I
yeah.
saw him on Facebook. I was like, he looks like my kind of guy.
Yeah, that was a great character. He played like an explorer type, like you know, with the like, I don't know what's
Yeah,
that hat called? An explorer hat.
yeah, like a pith helmet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
I
he
messaged him just on the off chance, and he came to the Midlands and he threw himself amongst all these weirdos he'd never met before, and then we became friends for life.
yeah. So your film, so your feature films that you've done, was Bella and the Witch Elm your first feature?
um, well, Bella was the a film, the first film I made that I felt comfortable with taking to festivals, basically.
Okay.
So before, so okay, so all the way going back, so yeah, we stopped using our cuddly toys. We stopped using our school friends. Well, we didn't quite completely stop using our school friends, but we just started making sort of feature films with the camcorder shot at people's houses, stuff like this. So I made a few films that never really saw the light of day, and there's a good reason for that. Films like Feast of the Beast and Mr. Blades and stuff like this. It was just me trying to get my head around the camera and making features. These are all like 70-minute films, and they're
Mhm.
very, very rough films. And then I started making a feature film called Day of the Stranger, which is like a western.
Yes. Is it a
And
horror or
that,
just a Western?
yeah, it's like a horror
Western.
psychedelic horror western.
So I have it on
Um,
my list. I haven't seen it. It's on my list here of like
it's
ones that
not great, so you don't really
I'm.
have to see that one.
Everyone says that about their own films though, because they're always like, "Oh, I don't want to subject it to someone," but it's.
It's got its moments. Don't get me
Mm.
wrong. I think I mean, that took about 6 years to make, and I had a bit of a hard time finishing it because I sort of, you know, put myself in a corner really. I weren't sure how to get out of it and finish the film, so it just went to bed for a little bit, on and off. So in that time, I decided to make Better Than the Wych Elm, which was about a local piece of folklore,
Mm.
a genuine unsolved murder mystery from based in Hagley Woods, which is literally like minutes away from here.
Where he
So I
wants me
made
to go
that.
hiking.
Yeah, you got to go up Witchbury Hill. If you go up to Witchbury Hill, you go up to see the big obelisk, and at the top of the obelisk, it says on the obelisk, someone's graffitied who put Bella in the Wych Elm. So,
Who did
so
that,
that'll be
Tom?
well. I think at some, cause I did a shout out to the newspaper because I wanted to find out more information if anyone
Right.
had any perspectives on it. Because basically, some kids went bird nesting in Hagley Wood uh, around 43, and because they go and find little eggs, and rather than eat them, they just paint them and stuff like that, and just keep them as little keepsakes. It's a bit naughty, but so
That's
they were
very
essentially
naughty.
they
Shame on
they
you.
yeah, shame on those little kids. They were trespassing essentially on this.
Hmm.
And one lad poked his head into a hollow wych elm tree and found a skeleton, basically.
Well,
And
that's what you get. Lesson be learned. Stop
yeah,
birds nesting or egging or whatever you want to call it. So what is it
dwarf
called?
brushes.
Stop stealing eggs.
Yeah, stop stealing eggs, or you'll find poor Bella stuck in a
Stop
hollow
stealing
wych
eggs or you
elm.
will become poor Bella.
Yeah, well, apparently that's what they said to my nan. They used to like when my nana and her friends were naughty, like the mothers would be like, "If you don't behave, I'll put you in the tree with Bella." You
Yeah,
know,
fair
so
enough.
this went back a fair bit. So yeah, so the body was that of a woman, a young woman, but nobody could identify her, so she didn't belong to any of the neighbouring towns. And so
Hmm.
basically, her identity was just left unknown. But that's the legend, essentially. And then there's loads of theories, you know, like an anthropologist, Margaret Murray, she thought she might have been killed by witchcraft because one of her hands was missing, and they found it sort of, a bit further away from the other trees. So they thought they might have used it as a hand of glory. And then obviously loads of theories about her being a spy came into it because obviously
Hmm.
it's during the war, so
Hmm.
they thought it was an espionage murder, basically.
Hmm.
But the actual evidence, as not sort of carried out by the police, because the police were happy to just strike it off and close the book, sort of
But I
thing.
suppose back then they had a lot of other stuff to do, so they were like, well,
They did, and there was a big traveller community around at the time, and there was a girl who was who I think sort of pointed towards a girl being from a traveller community who was one who
mm,
was murdered, but the police didn't have any kind of care to sort of
right.
make any record of a traveller girl being murdered, so wasn't any of concern of theirs. So therefore, it didn't end up on any documentation and was just sort of brushed under the carpet and forgotten about. Really,
Because it still's never been solved.
it's still never been solved officially. So, and that's the way I like it because it's
Oh, because
you
I
know,
like to know a conclusion. So that would drive me around the bend if I'd made a movie
yeah,
like that. I'd be like my life's goal to find this out, and probably nobody ever will be able to.
Well, there are some again. There's some really, really, really well thought out books on it, and one of them does essentially. I met up with the author of one of them. He wanted to discuss it with me,
Mhm.
and it pretty much points towards her being a traveler. But again, in owing to the folklore of the story, the
Mm.
fact that it isn't solved is where all the magic comes from. All the because she's inspired legions of poets, painters,
Mm.
singers, songwriters, filmmakers, and it's such a rich story full of loads of different elements. Like you got your
Yeah.
witchcraft, you got your espionage, you got everything, and then the fact that the graffiti started to spread around the town as well. That
Mm.
was the sort of who put better in the Wych Elm. From 40s, 50s onwards, all the towns neighbouring around Hagley would have who put better in the Wych Elm on the wall, but nobody knows who was putting this graffiti up.
That's
So it's quite
amazing.
spooky.
That's really spooky, and I haven't seen it. I need to watch it, and I feel like everybody needs to go and grab themselves a copy. But I think we're gonna have a very short break now, and I'll be back for the second half.
Part two.
Welcome back to the Screen Princess podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. You are watching or listening to the Screen Princess podcast with today's guest, Mr. Tom Lee Rutter. So we've just been discussing Bella in the Witch Elm, and we're going to continue through the repertoire of Tom's movies.
Ooh.
So
But yeah, so Bella is basically the first film I made where I thought, you know what, I can maybe take this to some festivals and see what they think. And that's kind of what's got the ball rolling officially, I think, really. It's what first got me to Horror on Sea, for instance. Met
mhm.
Paul, met everyone there, and the rest is history, really. The
Paul
last
Grove, who I
Paul
did
Cotton.
message to ask to him to come on. He has not responded yet. I'm
Oh,
sure he
really?
will.
That would be, I'd tune in for that. That would be great.
Yeah.
I'd love to be a Paul Waffle on. He's got loads of tales from
I
the
know.
days.
It would definitely wouldn't be an hour's podcast. I think it'd be like a three-parter.
Yeah, that would be incredible. I'd love to hear that. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, I'll get
Well,
him on. I'll twist his arm.
Paul's a legend, you see, because Paul took a chance on a film like Bella, because Bella's a very awkward runtime of like 36 minutes.
Hmm.
And whereas a lot of festivals will, they'll just turn down films that are a very awkward runtime like that because they're too
Yeah,
long to be a short, they're too short to be a feature. What are they? So,
somewhere in the middle.
you
Because
know,
I think with the film festivals, they'll either have like a full segment of short films or they'll play a short before a feature. And obviously, if you have like a long short, somebody who's sitting there for the full feature, and that's a really long kind of time on your butt.
exactly.
Especially
Yeah.
sometimes the chairs aren't that great on a film festival, and your bum's kind of numb. I feel like I have to switch between bum cheeks throughout movies. I'm like constantly wiggling.
Well, that's very true. But Paul was one of the few who was like, "Yeah, we'd love to show this film at Horror on Sea." I'm thinking, "Oh wow, okay."
I think it's a super fascinating subject. Like, I love how much you really kind of delved into it, and like, I feel like
It
I
was
want to
very
come. I want to come and
fascinating.
do the hike now and just and go to the woods and find
You'd
it.
love it. It's a great walk,
I
but
would.
I'd love to be able to find a similar sort of case or story to just throw
Mm,
myself into because all those days where I took the train to Wolverhampton to go to the resource centre where I'd spool through the old newspaper clippings on the
mm.
on the microfilm readers.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
like that. I've never seen that for real life. I've only ever seen that in films or on
yeah,
TV.
exactly. So I felt like I was in one of those films, and
Mm,
you just know that you've read somewhere that the Express and Star did a Bella article on this date, so you're there looking for this particular issue, and when you find it, it's like, wow, it's actually here. There it is. You know.
mm. That's super
So
fascinating. I want to find a case now and do
yeah,
a
exactly. To do
study.
some detective work.
Mm.
What you need to find out what amazing bits of folklore there are around up in South
I
Seal.
do. I know there are books on it. I don't know too much. Obviously, I grew up in Norwich, and I know there's so much around Norwich.
Yeah,
Then obviously I was in London for so long, but I'm freshly in the northeast of England, so
yeah.
I feel like I finally settled in. So I moved, I renovated, I finally, settled, and I'm just kind of now chilling. So next year I'm going to try and like discover stuff Like,
Become a detective, yeah.
next year I'm going to become a detective as if I don't do enough.
You could be like, what's her name? Jessica Fletcher.
Oh my
Murder.
God, I love Murder She Wrote. I've got the Jessica Fletcher pop vinyl.
Oh, really?
I love it. Like it always used to be on in the morning when I was in the gym. There'd be
Yeah.
Murder She Wrote or Time Team or Bargain Hunt, and I love all of them equally as much, and I could watch them like all day long. But I used to find if I went at the time they were on, I would spend longer on a treadmill because I want to see the full episode. Whereas now I don't really watch TV in the
Funnily
gym.
enough, Steve was making a film for the Bangladesh community in Newcastle,
Right.
and they were filming a scene outside a house, and Tony Robinson was doing Time Team just over the road, and he asked if he just wouldn't mind walking into shot so the camera can just like follow him and then pan along, and then you see the two main characters walk into frame. And Tony Robinson was like, "Yeah, sure." So
No way. So
this,
I where I used to live in London, I lived in it was a place called Bow Quarter, so don't mind saying it now because I don't live there. But it was an old converted matchstick factory. So it's a Brighton Lane matchstick factory. It was where the first women's strikes took place because the women that were working in the factory were getting phossy jaw from the phosphorus in the matches. And if you've
uh-huh.
seen Enola Holmes, it's basically based on that. So if you've seen the Enola Holmes 2 actually is
All right, yeah,
basically based on that building. It wasn't filmed there, it's based there. And it's about like the women's strike and then, putting their foot down. They wanted like canteens where they were away, eating their food away from the phosphorus.
I'm gonna have a look
And
at that.
Tony Robinson, I don't know whether he had family that had worked there, but he's obviously a keen historian and he's been there a couple of times. And I remember I was out walking my dog once and he was just like standing there with the camera. And I was like, because I love Time Team. And my dog, she went and she peed next to him. And I was like, oh, no. But he stroked the dog, said hello to the dog. And he didn't say hello to me, he said hello to the dog. And I was just like, oh my God, Tony Robinson's in my. And he was next to our koi pond, just like hanging out. But actually, when the episode went out, he was saying because it was obviously the factory had kind of awful, people that worked there were in awful conditions.
Yeah,
But it was converted into luxury apartments, and there was a koi pond, and we had a shop, and we had a bar on site, and a gym, and a pool, and and he basically said we were all yuppies, and it was like,
yeah. So
yeah,
it's quite. It seems
the
quite tasteless,
yuppies,
I guess. Yeah.
yuppies live within the gates to keep the riff-raff out, and I was like, yes, yes, we do. This is East London. We keep the riff-raff out of our nice estate complex. It's very true. And he said, like, people that live there, you don't actually have to leave because you can get your groceries if you want. If you worked from home, you could easily be in there. But it was a safe place to live when I lived there. But anyway, that's my Tony Robinson's
So if the
story. One-off
if the
piece.
world ended tomorrow, then would
Well,
people
in
would know.
lockdown, when no one could get pasta or loo roll, we could all get pasta and loo roll
So
because
you
we
were
weren't
totally
hoarding
sorted.
it. So I could just go down to my little local shop. I mean, you would have paid £3 a bag for pasta. Like you'd have paid the price for it, but you could get it. And
Yeah,
then I think
yeah.
he put his loo roll prices up too, but you could get them.
I'm not sure about Enola Holmes 2, but the first one, they shot some of it here in Kidderminster
Okay.
because of the Severn Valley Railway, you know. So
Oh.
it's one of those railways where obviously I think, oh, well, there it is. You like spot it in whatever film turns up. There's a
Mhm.
really good, one of my favourite TV ghost story for Christmas is the adaptation of Charles Dickens' The Signalman.
Okay.
Uh, it's very quite scary. They shot that here in Kidderminster on the train track as
I
well.
love it when
So
you see places you know. So where I was living in Scotland briefly before I moved into my place here, and the beginning of the new Indiana Jones, is it the Dial of Destiny? There's
yeah,
that
yeah.
viaduct, and that was like walking distance from where I was living in Scotland, in
Oh,
the Scottish
really?
borders. Yeah, so we went on like a little daily hike, and it was like
Oh, that's
down at
nice.
the bridge.
Well,
You
there's
could get up there,
a-
but you're not allowed to walk across it. Like so.
are you not allowed?
No, I think there's been a couple of people have jumped, so they've put
Mm.
stuff so you can't get onto the.
They're quite high, aren't they?
They
So
are, but I wasn't going to jump. Yeah. For those few who do ruin it for the rest of us.
that's very true. That's very true. But yeah, so obviously I put that same bit of track and the tunnel that they use for the signalman
Mm,
in Pocket Film as a little nod because that sort of lineage of like classic
yeah,
ghost story, and it is in the scene that is for the haunted house scene where the guys travel into the haunted house
yeah.
via steam train. So it's all there in the film. You feel like you're carrying that sort of lineage across
Where can we
into.
watch Bella?
Where can we watch Bella? Well, it's actually off at the moment. It used to be on Prime because Well, so I'm currently trying to just sort of, get me ducks in a row
Mm.
because naturally we're going to be putting out a Blu-ray release of the Pocket Film of Superstitions.
Yes,
And ultimately, what I'd like is to have that disc also have Bella on it. So
amazing. And we're going
because
to
they're
talk
very
about
much,
your links to the distribution company
yeah,
and things.
yeah,
So we'll cover that. That's really exciting. So I'm going to get to see it.
yeah, absolutely. And it's I feel like because those films belong together,
Mm,
that they should be together because
mm,
it's a style I started with, and I thought, oh, I'm really enjoying that. Let's see how much further I can take it. So
mm.
Pocket Film was taking the same sort of styles to the next sort of degree,
Yeah.
and then the film after that, who knows, But
Well, let's talk about Pocket Film then. So, Pocket Film of Superstitions is a really beautifully shot movie, and it's a film made up of lots of little vignettes of different superstitions, and it's all put together and woven together so nicely. It's such a beautiful film to watch, like
thank you.
everything from the way it's shot, it's stylized in its very own way, and it's like I've actually never seen anything like that, so it's so
Oh,
unique.
excellent.
But everybody I know who's seen it has come away going, that was incredible. And so I'm really glad that you did ask me to be a part of it, even
Oh
if
no,
it
I'm
was
glad that
because
you're a
allowed to
part of
visit
it.
your arm. But it was, yeah, an
It
incredible
is, it is,
film.
it is one of those films that's like it pulled I pulled off essentially what I imagined, but I didn't know that it was going to work so well. And
Yeah.
because being the creator, all I see is everything that's wrong with it. But it's had such great feedback. But that was 5 years of work on
Well,
and
it's
off.
not often I'll sit through a film twice at festivals either. Like if I've seen it at one, I probably will not watch it at the other. You'll find me in the bar. But I
Yeah.
actually did watch it at Horror on Sea, and I did
Oh,
watch it in Great Yarmouth. So I've
oh,
watched
that's
it
brilliant.
twice.
No, I really appreciate that, mate. Well, at the end of the day, I felt like, well, these days there's because horror again there's a sort of there's a need, filmmakers feel like a lot of need to shock
Mm,
or to be gory, or so I felt like the other way to go against the grain, be
mm.
subversive by being really quite quaint and pretty.
Yeah, because
So
there's nothing in it that's necessarily scary, but it
mm,
is very, it touches on the supernatural, so it's kind of a different style of horror. It's not like a one that's going to put the fear of God into you. It's like,
no, it's got its moments, but it's I was also more concerned about putting fairies in there and
oh, I
stuff like
love
that.
that scene. I'm a bit gutted I wasn't a fairy.
I know a lot of people wish they were like part of the fair. I mean, to be honest with you, I wish I could have just made that sequence about 10 minutes longer because
Yeah.
I just loved it so much,
If you ever make a film that's just about fairies, call me.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, because it's such beautiful imagery to play with when you look
Mm.
at all the old flower fairy books and
Yeah,
when
I
you look at
used
all
to
the old.
have, in fact, I've got a little silver flower fairy charm for a necklace,
Oh, really?
which I had when
See,
I was a kid, and I still have it in my jewelry
well,
box.
see, imagine bringing all that sort of stuff to life. That would be quite
Yeah.
sweet, wouldn't it? Yeah.
It's so magical. And I'm a big fan of like Brian Froud and all of the
Oh,
fairies and
yeah,
goblins. And I think when I studied art, I studied some of the kind of Arthur Rackham who did a lot of kind of fairy stuff and the various
yeah.
artists. I've always loved fairies. So yeah, it's super
Yeah, oh,
beautiful
it's
shot.
gorgeous. Yeah, Brian Frow. I mean, some of his sort of dreamscapes that he'd create with these creatures and all that, absolutely
Mm,
amazing, really. But yeah, I mean, I love fantasy and
mm,
I love the idea of dreams and fantasy, and that's more my sort of bag because you're chasing a feeling of when you would have these sort of dreams or how you feel when you're sort of enchanted or what
yeah,
your idea of enchantment is. So I'd like to take that sort of stuff further, really, because
yeah.
why not? Why not be a bit more pretty with your with the sort of
Yeah.
fantastical stuff?
And you had some great locations. And the thing is, like, because they're all, short, separate pieces, you got to do so many different things. So, and you got to
Yeah,
work with a lot of people. So you had a lot of actors because it's all kind of separate pieces.
yeah,
And
it's such a big
some people,
cast.
I did two, some people did more than one. So what did I do? I came down and I remember we filmed in this incredible, like, Tudor
Yeah,
building.
it's like a big Tudor manor, and we were told only on the day that there was a wake there at like 2 o'clock.
Yeah, so you have to leave. So at one
Yeah.
point I'm being burnt at the stake, and the next minute we have to get out because there's a wake happening.
So you had
Um,
like an hours each. We had an hours each scene, I think. So you were a
yeah,
vampire first, and then you were the persecuted girl by the witchfinder.
Yeah, so the vampire was fun. So obviously, and I think I have shot as a vampire before, and it was a film that never saw the light of day. It was Rock Band versus
Mm.
Vampires, and it was early on in my career, and it never got finished in the edit. And despite them saying so many times it was going to, it just never happened. So I never actually had been a vampire on film that anyone had ever
No,
seen. That was
I
kind of
was
my
really
first.
surprised at the time. Really surprised because I thought, oh, she'll just play a vampire again, I guess.
No, and I hadn't. And yes, that was the first one that, well, like, not the first time I played one, but the first time it ever kind of, played one that
When you
anyone.
get turned into a bat, that still gets such a great laugh at every
Yeah,
screening.
I know it was very hammer. And I've done like photo shoots, and that's probably where you thought it from.
I
Because I've
think that's
got
probably
my
what it
custom
was.
fangs that I
Mm.
had made once on the
I
set
think
of one of
that
the
when
movies.
you get turned into a bat, that's one of the first moments in the film where people start going, "Oh, hang on a minute, this is meant to be funny as well."
Yeah, yeah, it was super fun. And it was like a little bat on a string, and it was so hammer horror, wasn't it?
Yeah, I
It
don't
was
know what
like a
happened to
real
that bat.
nod to, those old practical effects where you can still see the string slightly, but it was like it worked perfectly for what it was supposed to
Did that
be.
bat go home with you? Because it just disappeared after that shoot.
I did not take the bat, no.
It
No.
just disappeared without trace and never turned up ever. Because Kieran wanted to borrow it for Blood Demons, I was like,
Hmm.
"Yeah, sure, no worries." And then when I
Probably
came to
still
look at it,
there. Or it flew off. I don't
yeah,
know.
I think it flew off.
No. I did not pilfer the bat. So we went from that one to doing the one with the girl who's accused of witchcraft. Was it
Yeah,
because she wouldn't date the guy, or she wouldn't go with the guy?
basically, yeah, because that whole sort of hypocrisy of the witchfinders
Yes.
and basically we made it because you shunned his advances, so
Yeah.
he was like, right, burn her. If she won't come with me, she can burn. And
Yeah, and I get burnt at the stake, and then later on you've got a scene with Pauline Piett, and she's the fortune teller, and it kind of like
so yeah,
it,
she's sort of invoke. She's hearing you as a spirit
mm.
crying at the stake. So then that's how that scene just gets
And
married
that actually
together.
looked really effective, the whole stake, like being burnt at the stake things. Remember, it was that tree, and we were like, how are we going to do this?
Yeah,
In
exactly.
our
Well,
hour that we have.
there's nowhere for you to be burned.
Yeah, we can't burn her.
So
Um,
we had to use this big tree stump, and it was like this trunk was so thick, and I was thinking, "Oh, this ain't gonna work." But then we
and I'm
fixed it
always
in
when
post.
people like want to put me like I go on hikes and stuff, and I love nature. But I kind of don't look at things, and I don't look at what's going on creepy crawly wise. I just kind of get through. But when it's like, right, you have to stand leaning against this tree, and I'm like, I know how many spiders live on trees, and it always like freaks me out. And I'm a
Yeah.
bit like, let's shoot this quickly. And it always happens to me. It's always like, right, you're gonna lay on this pile of leaves, and it's like,
Yeah. I mean, it was a pretty nice garden. I mean,
it was
that's where I
beautiful.
got married afterwards as well. Because obviously when we went to go and view the place and book it for our wedding,
Hmm.
I was also like, oh, by the way, I'm a filmmaker.
Yeah, can we burn something at the stake here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it was a case of right now you've got our signatures for the booking.
Hmm.
Let's talk filming.
Yeah, did they give you a discount for filming because of that?
uh, I think it was just I think it was just a donation maybe
Nice.
because I always I was always sort of telling these locations because I use several museums
Hmm.
throughout the film. And it's always a case of, look, I'm not a production company. I'm an individual making a
Yeah.
film off my own back. I haven't got funding. So what's the best you can do for me sort of thing,
Hmm.
And 9 times out of 10, they'll let you have the run of the place for a donation. So I'll bung them like 100, 150 quid.
Yeah.
And like you said, you get to cover so many different scenes and
Hmm.
sets in that film because we just get to run around for the day, and then you get all these amazing production values on screen for
Hmm.
very little, So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was the way to
Yeah.
go.
So, I mean, when this film does come out, you do all need to grab yourself a copy if you can't get to a festival. Is it in any more festivals? Has it got any more screenings or?
No, I've nipped the screens in the bud now. It
Okay.
played. I think the last one was a spooky oddity market in New Jersey.
All right.
After that, I thought, well, okay, we'll put it to bed now because naturally the next step would be a physical media release.
Yes.
So
Which is the segue into you telling me about treasured films.
yeah. So, funnily enough, it was thanks to Bella and the Wych Elm that Graham Lloyd saw the film. He was like, "Why don't you come and work with me? We'll nurture and grow a label."
Hmm.
And when I met him, he'd already picked up a couple of films to be released, and he practically finished, getting the first one ready. But then he was like, "I've got all these films I've picked up the rights for. Can you help, with some editing for some extra features and whatnot?" I was like, "Yeah." So what? Fast forward 2 years later, we've got 6 films out now on Blu-ray. We're due to get another 2, 3, 4, about 4 more out, which were meant to be out this year, but with things have been delayed and stuff like that. We're still finding our feet as a label, but it's responding really well. Being a boutique Blu-ray label in the UK, it's quite
Yeah.
challenging because
I
you
mean,
still
they're
have to
really
submit.
nicely packaged, aren't they? You're not just getting
Yeah,
the film, you're getting this beautiful
well, here's the
cover.
latest one. You got the Dawn of the Mummy. Oh, can't see with the light. There you go,
There you
Dawn of the
go.
Mummy. So it's got like a booklet and some art cards and stuff like that. So it's a deluxe, piece of physical
Yeah.
media really.
I've seen so
And
many
collectors
people
love it.
like super excited when they've received their items.
Oh, it's amazing seeing people respond to it really well because again, it's we do it because we're film fans, and Graham was crazy enough to start a label, and we can't really turn back now. So
But you've grown. I mean, since it was the two of you, now you've got more people working with you.
we've
So,
got Rich working with us at the moment, who's helping on the film treasure side of things, keeping that
right.
ticking over. Um, Yeah, so yeah, we are growing. We're just trying to stay above water because it's not an easy game to
Mm,
play. It's quite challenging. There's not enough money going around as always.
as always.
But when you see a release coming through the door,
Hmm.
you just you remember why you love it so much.
Yeah.
Why you're in it.
Yeah. So
So
you've always been a big collector of films as well. So for like people that really collect, like these are the kinds of releases that you want to get your hands on.
yeah, I mean, boutique has taken the world by storm now. I
Mm.
mean, boutique in everything. I mean, beers, burgers, Blu-rays.
Yeah. They all
So,
begin with
so
B.
everything, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So everything has to be sort of a premium sort of product, I guess.
Mm.
Um, so
Also to
if
make
we're
people
gonna,
want to buy it, because especially now with streaming, people can go on Netflix, they can go on, any of these sites
yeah.
to watch things. Like it has to be something pretty special if it's going to make people want to buy it.
Well,
Also
it's
because
funny
it's
because
enduring.
the type, well, exactly, and the type of film that we release, we think, well, the type of people that would just want to pick up a DVD or a Blu-ray of a film just to watch the thing. But like you said, they'd rather probably go streaming. But then you got the collectors. The collectors
Mm.
market are those who want the film in a definitive form,
Yeah.
that's got all the bells and whistles. And that's sort of the market we're aiming at, really,
Mm.
So every film we release, we want that to be the best possible release of that film.
Yeah.
And we just do everything within our power to make sure that happens. And if we have to discuss at length whether a film is worth taking on or not, because you look at a film and you think, right, what can we do to better
Mhm.
a previous release that it's had or something like this, So it's taking all these things into consideration because you've then got to resubmit it to the BBFC, which is
Yeah.
not cheap. And then you've got to just mount all the best possible extras and find all the best possible sources.
Mm.
It's fascinating because there's never a dull moment when working on these films. Each film is very different, you know.
So what's next then for you film wise?
Film wise, so
Have you
at
got
the
anything in the
moment,
pipeline?
yeah, we're writing a film at the moment. Funnily enough, I'm writing with a script with Lauren Barnett, and it's a film about
I missed
undines.
that with who?
So with Lauren Jane Barnett.
Ah, okay.
So it's a film about undines, water elementals, basically. So when we were
Mm.
talking earlier about the sort of the fantastical, the fairy tale stuff, this is still sort of
I've spoken to
in.
Lauren about coming on actually, so I think we're going to sort something out for the new year. She's going to come and
Yeah,
get
there you go. You might have
talk
some
about
cross
her bits and
referencing.
bobs. That's exciting. Lots of like crossing over here again.
Exactly. It's going to be like going to like somewhere like Horror on Sea. You're just going to see all
Yeah, it's
these different.
basically this is Horror on Sea the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we're sort of not to reveal too much at the moment, but it's about Undines, and it's going to be a strange drama, but with fantastical elements.
That's
So
very exciting.
yeah, this one's very much one of those where we are um very much experimenting in the writing stage, because
Hmm.
with Pocket Film and Bella, I'm too fidgety to sit down and write. So
Yeah.
with Pocket Film is okay. So write the scenes for what we have to shoot a
Uh-huh.
week before we do it. The narration, I write all that separately. Whereas this
You have
next
to have
one,
it.
this has to come fully formed as a script, really.
Yeah.
So
That's exciting. And
yeah,
it's
can't
very
wait.
different as well. I feel like it's very different, but you're still probably going to have that very whimsical kind of nature to it that you've got
Yeah, it's going to have a lot of that going on.
going.
It's going to have those sort of silent film aesthetics as well, but not completely.
Yeah,
It's
see, I
gonna
was like, for some of that, it'd be great. No lines, but I had lines.
yeah, unfortunately.
I mean, I can't really
So
whinge about lines. That's kind of my job.
well, no,
But
exactly.
sometimes it's easy when you don't have them.
It's when you start seeing the script and it's like paragraphs, isn't it? That's when it's like,
You have this
okay.
fear, you're like, oh no. But it's always okay because it's my job. I'm trained to learn them. Like I
I
know how to
I
do
love
it.
I love going to act for other people. I mean, my,
Do
my
you?
first love, one of my first loves was acting. I mean, I used to love doing the school plays and stuff like this.
I never
But
got to be in school plays because I did ballet. So anyone who did ballet, basically in any school play, you were forced to dance. So they'd have
yeah,
like chorus bits or whatever. So I mean, I've been a dancing Orange of the Rainbow once. I was a dancing star. I think I've been a like a Beatrix Potter style Charleston dancing mouse, but I never really got to be in school plays. I think I did one, and the only one I did was because somebody was off sick. So
mm.
they threw me in because they were like, well, you managed to learn the lines quickly. So that was me.
No, I was a complete exhibitionist. I loved acting and stuff like this. But then when I started getting into filmmaking, I was like, right, okay, that's me behind the camera now.
Mm.
So when anyone asks me to come and do some acting for them, I love it. But I never learn my lines until I sort of get there, really, I guess.
I
Because
feel like I read them a couple of times, and I remember when I was new to it, and I really like studied them really hard, and like knew them. But now I feel like I know I don't panic anymore because I know that I'll know them. So I read them a few times, I read them a couple of times, then the night before I'll read them a couple of times, and then by the time you're on set and you've done the rehearsals with your script, you're just like, I know them, that's fine.
yeah, it's not so
And then the
bad. It's
nerves
just when
go
you
because you've done the rehearsals, and it's like it all worked out. It's fine.
yeah, it all works out. It's just when you start seeing those paragraphs and you're like, that is a
I don't
big
know if
sort
like if I was working for like Spielberg or something, if he'd be like, yeah, she's turned off and she doesn't really know her lines properly. I don't ever get away with that, but I feel like, these in our
yeah, that'd be a
independent
different story, wouldn't it?
yeah, I feel like in our kind of genre
Yeah,
style,
in our game, we're we're,
okay,
we're all
our
too
gang,
forgiving.
it's all good. It's all good.
We're all too forgiving.
Yeah, no, it all kind of works out. So I've got a little quick fire. It's not so much quick fire because
Uh-huh.
I kind of warn people because I know that I've been thrown on the spot before and it's like, well, I can't think of anything like off the top of my
I'm
head. So
terrible at thinking on the spot.
that's a little questions for you here. I've got to find my page. Where are we? There we go. So what is your favorite scary movie?
I've got so many, but I think you know what? We'll just go for a different one each time. I'm going to think about one that is quite scary and a favourite. But tomorrow you ask me the same question, it'll be a different film. So I've got far too many, as you can probably see from the stacks of Blu-rays and DVDs. I'm going to go with Tourist Trap, a film called Tourist Trap. That is a very creepy film.
Never heard of it.
I really recommend Tourist. It's like House of Wax, but
Oh,
it's
how
doing
old?
its
Like
own.
when did it come out?
1979.
Okay.
It's doing its own thing, but it's very creepy, very, very creepy. If you don't like weird mannequins that come to life by themselves and stuff like that, you won't like Tourist Trap.
I'm okay
It's
with mannequins. Like,
it's very, very spooky. I really
okay.
recommend
I
Tourist Trap
love
to
this.
anybody.
This is really just for my film education. I'm asking people these questions because so far the one you've said, the one Liam said, I haven't seen either of, and I
Oh,
know
yeah, well, there you
that's
go.
probably
There's
going to be
two.
the
There's
case
two
all the
to
way
get you.
along.
Well, you're having your Halloween now. You've had your Christmas, so you might as well. There's two
Yeah,
to.
I mean, once Christmas is over, it's Halloween until next Christmas, isn't it, really?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what is your biggest fear? Phobia.
um, my biggest fear. You know what? It's not exactly a fear, but it's a complete aversion to. I'm really averse to scouring foam.
To, to what?
You know, scouring foam. You know, foam.
Foam.
You know, like yeah, sponge foam.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
I
So
can't, I
is it
can't
so that you
touch
don't
it.
have to do dishes?
No, 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 I have to either use it upside down or I use a scrubbing brush
I feel
because
if I was Sarah, I would be having words here about why you're not
she
doing the
said
dishes
she
in the house.
sussed that one out pretty quick. That's why she got a brush. But no, I can't touch scouring foam because it
Oh.
makes me go weak at the knees. I don't know what it is. I just can't touch it.
Do you not like cotton wool as well? Because a lot of people don't like that.
Well, my dad doesn't like cotton wool. I don't mind cotton wool because a lot of them don't like how it squeaks. You
Yeah.
know, but I don't mind cotton wool so
I
much.
feel
But scouring,
like halloumi cheese is like the cheese of the cotton wool world at this
oh yeah, because that
point.
squeaks, doesn't it?
Weeks, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it does squeak. But yeah, so I'm going to say scouring foam.
Okay. So popcorn, sweet or salted?
So I like sweet. Sarah likes salted, so we have to have a mix.
Yeah, we're the same. I'm salted
Yeah,
and he's sweet, so we have to
yeah.
mix.
That's strange, isn't it?
So I've got, and this is probably going to be Bella, but I had what's your favorite creepy urban legend or ghost story from
Yeah.
your hometown or city? But I feel like that's
I'd be a fool not to say Bella, wouldn't I?
and finally, what would you like written on your tombstone?
Um, okay, so maybe an arrow pointing down and then dig this.
Dig this. I feel
Dig
like
this.
I just want like a Ouija board printed on mine.
That'd be cool.
So
Yeah,
like
because
people
that'd be
can
like if you need to contact me.
yeah, if you need to contact me, do so with a cup,
Yeah,
preferably a
exactly.
champagne
Yeah, yeah.
glass, and then I'll come
Like
and then I'll answer.
I quite like that Norwegian board on because you'd have one of them flat ones to take it then one that's
Yeah,
like yeah,
yeah.
so people can
Well,
sit around you then.
thank you so much for coming on as a guest today. And obviously, I'd love to have you back. And like I said, talking for an hour, and you worry that you're not going to have enough to talk about for an hour. And I feel like we could just keep talking for ages because we didn't even
Yeah.
cover the pigeons. So I feel
Oh
like
yeah,
this
we
is a
didn't.
story for another day.
Yeah.
And this is the jumper we bought the day.
Was it?
Yeah, so because
Oh
I was literally running, I had to change costume or between my
yeah.
podcast today, and I was like, oh well, that's in the wardrobe. I thought that'll do, and see if you
Oh
recognize
nice.
it.
Synchronicity that is.
Oh
It's
yeah,
quite
there
it
you
all
go,
comes
there you
together.
go. I'm like because it's too cold. It's like December as we do this, and it's like freezing. I just want to be warm and cozy. But
I know.
yeah, the pigeons. I'm just going to leave you with the pigeons as a story for another day. But I will. If I don't see you at Horror on Sea, I will see you hopefully at Romford.
You
And
will see me at Romford, and we shall hopefully see each other on a film set before long as well.
yes, yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you for having me.
Later.